Let's start episode 3 with a troubling situation you may find yourself in. Your department is undergoing change. The market tides are shifting. Your team is confused. Your boss is pressing you for your strategic plan, but variables are changing so fast, it's hard to keep track. You have incomplete information, but you still need to make a decision and come up with a strong plan to satisfy your boss and that your team will rally around. This is the essence of organizational steering in turbulent times. You're being asked to deliver strategic clarity in the face of volatility, uncertainty, and ambiguity. I'm Brett Thomas, author of Integral Leadership in Turbulent Times and 16 other books on management and leadership. I define turbulent times as characterized by economic uncertainty, government instability, and technology, especially AI disruption. I'm based out of the US, which is experiencing a perfect storm of all three characteristics, particularly government instability as a result of the current authoritarian takeover that's in full swing, creating absolute chaos in the markets and many industries I serve. So I decided to live in Europe for a while, not only to get a little break from the chaos in the US, but also to visit many of the other countries that have had their democracies dismantled by authoritarian movements. That's a whole other topic, but if that interests you, that book, Cracking the Authoritarian Code, is now available on Amazon, and you can get a free digital copy at authoritariancode.com. Now, returning to this idea of steering your ship on stormy seas, I'm recording this episode here on the Turkish Mediterranean coast, also called the Turkish Riviera, where thankfully this time of year the weather and the ocean are calm and beautiful. This episode in the Masterclass series features the strategy and alignment dimension of my universal leadership model, which is featured in this book and many of my other books. This dimension represents one of the 3 inherent leadership responsibilities illuminated by integral leadership. This is the leader's responsibility to set direction, create clarity, and prepare the organization to act decisively. It includes 3 core competencies: sensemaking, which is diagnosing what's really going on and what to do about it; stakeholder alignment, ensuring the right people are genuinely committed to the direction you've chosen; and organizational steering, crafting a focused, adaptable strategic plan that can survive contact with reality. In many of my books, and when we assess leadership competencies in our training and coaching programs, including our online assessments, we provide specific benchmarks for low, intermediate, and high proficiency in all the dimensions, including this one. If you want to survive leading in turbulent times, a low or intermediate proficiency will be inadequate. You really must be on the higher end of proficiency to steer your organization successfully through stormy seas. In many of my books, and when we assess leadership competency in our training and coaching programs, including our online assessments, we provide specific benchmarks for low, intermediate, and high proficiency in all the dimensions of leadership, including this one. If you want to survive leading in turbulent times, a low or intermediate proficiency in this skill is going to be inadequate. You really need to be at the higher end of proficiency to steer your organization successfully through stormy seas. So let me briefly tell you what it looks like when a leader has a high level of proficiency in this dimension. They have a compelling vision and a plan that's realistic, high leverage, and adaptable to changing conditions. They can align stakeholders, which means get them behind your plan and your priorities. And they can keep the organization moving forward with confidence, even when the environment is uncertain or volatile. In turbulent times, these skills aren't just nice to have, they're survival skills. That reminds me of a true story I recently came across that offers a visceral, real-life example of this dimension of leading in turbulent times. In 1991, the cruise ship Oceanos was sailing off the coast of South Africa when it ran into a violent storm. The ship began taking on water. Passengers panicked. In an almost unthinkable failure of leadership, the captain and the officers abandoned the bridge early, leaving everyone else without any direction, without a plan, without leadership. Among the passengers were Moss and Tracy Hills, a husband and wife musician team that were there to perform. Moss played the guitar, Tracy played bass. They weren't officers, they weren't trained in maritime rescue, but when they realized no one else was in charge, they stepped up. They began organizing passengers, launching lifeboats, sending out distress calls. When the South African Navy arrived with helicopters, Moss climbed to the top of the deck at night in rough seas to strap people into harnesses so they could be lifted to safety. They coordinated the rescue. They calmed terrified passengers. They made sure everyone was evacuated. Over 200 lives were saved. No one died. Moss Hills himself was one of the last to be lifted off just a few minutes before the Oceanos sank. On my YouTube channel, I created a YouTube playlist of several dozen videos, including documentaries, about this true story of the sinking of the Oceanos. So if you want to learn more, follow the link in the description. Here's why I think this story of the Oceanos is so relevant. Leadership is fundamentally about taking responsibility and taking initiative, especially when those who are supposed to be in charge don't. In the Oceanos example, the captain may have been overwhelmed by the turbulent conditions and cratered under pressure. His abdication of leadership created a vacuum, one that Moss Hills rose to the occasion and filled. That's the reality of turbulent times. You may find yourself sailing into stormy weather with an inadequately maintained vessel, multiple fast-changing variables, and a leadership team that doesn't have the best plan. In those moments, you have to be ready to step up. You have to make sense of the situation, make a decision, make a plan, and make something happen. That's leadership. Sense-making is the first step in creating strategic clarity in turbulence. It's the ability to understand what's really happening. This means slowing down enough to separate the symptoms from the causes, to understand what's really happening and what's needed and what you should do about it. It involves filtering critical signals from all the noise, spotting the patterns that others may be missing. When you don't make sense of your situation, your plan, no matter how well designed, will be solving the wrong problem. And solving the wrong problem faster just gets you to failure sooner. In stormy conditions, sense-making gives you the foundation for every other leadership move. The next key is to create a plan people can believe in. A plan is not just a document. In turbulent times, it may be the key to the survival of your project, your role, your team, the division, or even your company. Your strategic plan communicates to your crew, this is where we're going, and here's how we'll get there. An adequate strategic plan is realistic about the current situation, resources, risks, and constraints. An effective strategic plan focuses on high leverage priorities and has a high likelihood of success, and can also adapt quickly if conditions continue to change. Let me say a quick word about paradigm literacy in planning. In episode 2, I introduced leadership paradigms, the lenses that shape how people see the world, evaluate leaders and leadership, and respond to your leadership, including your plans. If you missed that episode, go back and watch it, or you can find it in the book. Here's why this matters for planning. If your plan doesn't resonate with the dominant paradigm of your stakeholders or your followers, it's unlikely to get traction. So with the modern paradigm stakeholders, they want to see data-driven, logical, strategic cause for action. The postmodern paradigm stakeholders want to see that the process was inclusive and that multiple perspectives were considered. Traditional paradigm stakeholders expect a clear chain of command and well-defined responsibilities and direction. Imperial paradigm stakeholders care most about speed, decisiveness, and visible control. When you understand this, you can shape your sense-making and your plan to meet people where they are without compromising the situation. The real-life Moss Hills case study in leadership is telling. As Hills' behavior shows us, the leader's the one who takes responsibility and takes initiative, especially when those with the title fail to take responsibility or when the environment overwhelms them. Then it's up to other leaders, often without a title, to step forward and to step into that vacuum. That might look like taking charge of sensemaking when the data is messy and no one else seems to be able to grasp what's really happening or what to do about it, or creating a plan that people can believe in and get behind, or aligning your people behind a course of action, even if the course is imperfect and you may have to adapt with changing conditions. So here's my challenge to you. Start preparing now, because given the triple threat of economic uncertainty, government instability, and technology, especially AI disruption, you're gonna need to take responsibility and take initiative probably sooner rather than later. You can access all 5 episodes of this Leadership in Turbulent Times Masterclass and get a free digital copy of the book at turbulenttimesmasterclass.com. My company also provides amazing AI software that assists leaders to be successful in this dimension and all the other dimensions of leadership, and you can find information about that in the link in the description. I look forward to continuing this conversation in episode 4 of Leadership in Turbulent Times Masterclass. Meanwhile, I'm wishing you smooth sailing in these choppy waters.